Hi guys, welcome to the podcast. Before we start, we just want to introduce you to our sponsor. Our sponsor is the Twitter handle @MugsNFL. They're a company that offer a range of custom items such as mugs, t-shirts, crewneck jumpers, and hoodies, all customized with your favorite sports player or your sports team. That can be any sport ranging from the NFL through to the NBA to UK sports. All you have to do for an extra 10% off your order is drop them a message on Twitter quoting our podcast, that is the Hardwood Hoops podcast, and they'll get 10% off your next order. Cheers and enjoy the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Hardwood Hoops podcast. We are here for episode 11, and I'm joined by Mr. Benjamin Jones.
Hello, everybody. Feels like a little while since the last one. I know it's only been a week, but...
Yeah, I know, especially since we recorded as well. It's been quite a while. How have you been?
Yeah, very well. Yeah, had a little time away, enjoying the holidays already.
A little pre-basketball break.
Oh, yes, before we get into the serious stuff.
Nice. How excited on a scale of 1 to 10 are you for basketball to return tomorrow night?
10s across the board, easily. It's a big opening night as well, some big games and stuff. So, yeah, buzzing for it, especially after watching the scrimmages. What about you?
Yeah, I can't wait. It's been a long while coming. This is how excited I am.
Let's go to theme music for it.
Yeah, got an excitement theme music, 10 rating, that is. No, it seems like it was like ages ago that A, we started the podcast, but B, they started deciding about the bubble and Vegas, Orlando and stuff. So to come around, it's felt like ages. But now it's here. It's felt like no time at all. It's weird. It's just excitement.
It's funny to think we started this when there was technically no basketball on.
Yeah, and I think we recorded our first podcast on like the 10th of June. So you're talking like nearly 2 months ago, and we've had basketball for a week. And we haven't actually still, because we've only just started recording, we still haven't actually spoken about a live game yet, which is crazy.
No.
Lots to talk about. Yeah, so we'll just kick straight off. Before we move on to the actual on-court stuff, we'll just go through some of the news. So probably the biggest news, Ben, I'd say, is the New York Knickerbockers have a new head coach, and it is Mr. Tom Thibodeau, on a 5-year deal. Let's just get your initial thoughts on the hire and how it's gone, and have they got the right man for the job, in your opinion?
I think Tom Thibodeau signing a 5-year deal is great for him because he'll be fired in 3. So Quid's in there. Now, I think it's a good signing. It's the one we all thought was going to happen. I think it's good for developing their talent and making them more of a contender quite quickly. Just like I've said all along, I don't know if it's got a 5-year life. I do genuinely think it might just be a 3-year thing, and then they'll get someone in to take them the rest of the way, depending on who they've managed to get and who they've managed to acquire over that time in terms of players, other staff, those kind of things. I think it is a good move for them, and it means the rest of the NBA looking for coaches can now actually pick one as well. So that's also good news. But I like it. They'll have to prove me wrong, it being a 5-year deal. What about you, being a current / ex-Knicks fan?
I think I agree with what you said. Definitely, with this one we all thought, we've spoken about it a few times off air, and on the group chats, etc. Like everyone basically thought it was going to be him, didn't they? So there's no surprise really. I'm glad they took their time, interviewed a lot of people, because I don't understand why any sports team would rush such a big decision, especially when there's no actual rush. By not being in the playoffs, there's no benefit really of taking 2 or 3 less weeks to make a rush decision. Even if the decision was still going to be the same, I like the fact that they took their time, did their due diligence, and have come up with who they think is the right man. In terms of is he the right man, I'm not really sure. I think he's a good influence for the franchise at a time of change with the new GM and all the new staff. I think he's a very good, professional, organised defensive head coach. So I think he'll help steer the ship in the right direction. Is he the coach that will help you win a title long term? It's such a players' league now that until you get the right set of players, you're just miles away, aren't you, from any sort of success, I'd say. So steering the ship could get you into an 8 seed, which would be really good for a team like the Knicks, I agree. But I agree with you that if he's here for any longer than 2 or 3 years, I would be shocked. But I'm glad to see him back. He's a very fun person to watch, isn't he, on the sidelines? There's a lot of arguments with players and stuff, which is cool.
So much energy from that man. The reddest of faces. Just incredible.
Yeah, and he's had a bit of stick, I read online from an article from The Ringer about being a poor choice because he struggles to develop young players, which I think, I'm not sure if that's fully true, because obviously we all know how well D Rose was the youngest MVP ever with him as a coach. Jimmy Butler was an end of the first round pick, and he's developed into a top 10, 15 player in the NBA. Kobe Bryant used to say a lot about Tom Thibodeau and how he helped him become a pro and how it helped him learn how to defend and stuff. So, and Kevin Garnett did the same as well, actually. So he's got a good record. I'm not saying every young person's going to like him. Him and Kat had their issues, but I think if you're a willing defender and you're willing to learn, he's an ideal head coach, even for a younger player, I'd say.
I just think it for him, the players that he doesn't develop are your sort of 10, 11, 12 man. He has his set rosters and rotations, and that's the people he works and beasts, and they improve and they take massive strides because they're getting the attention and the playing time. It's those guys sat at the end of the bench that will lose out with the Knicks, but they're at the end of the bench. Like, you know, it's not going to be the biggest issue for them if they walk away. It's that those are the gaps you can fill with a minimum contract that anybody would sign. Like me and you'd sign to sit on the end of the Knicks bench and not get played for God knows how many thousands of dollars a year. So, you know, bring him on.
Yeah, definitely. I think the only negative thing I'd say about the hire is I personally preferred, I could see why they would go with him, and he was always the favourite for the job, but I would prefer them to go after a Kenny Atkinson, you know, from across the river. They're in Brooklyn, or they were heavily linked with 2 of the assistants from the Hawks. And obviously the Budenhauser tree has just become absolutely insane with people like Quinn Snyder, Kenny Atkinson, Budenhauser himself. Like, that group of people are absolutely insane. So I just think there could have been a better, maybe long-term hire. But short-term, I just see no huge issues with it. Yeah, and also they've been almost, the rumours have been that they're going to add 1 or 2 of the other candidates to the coaching staff, which is crazy. Similar to the Lakers with Kidd, they're going to add potentially Woodson. Mike Miller is in the frame. Jason Kidd himself to move across was also a name that's been bandied around. So they're going to add a really experienced group of coaches, but all on the defensive end. So do not be expecting any exciting offensive sets of the Knicks this year. They're going to be a very hard-nosed, hard-to-beat team, but hopefully you can turn them around. The NBA is better when they're a fun team, at least.
Yeah, definitely. It's about time we had a Knicks franchise that was somewhat competitive.
Yeah, and I think they'll get some good free agents and trades with the new GM. I think Leon Rose is very, very capable. Already rumours we mentioned many times about Chris Paul. I think if you get a Chris Paul and a Tibbs together, like, you're just going to attract stars. You're going to attract defensive stars. You're going to attract hardworking players as well, which is cool for New York and good to go with the young pros. So we'll see. But the future is looking brighter than we've probably said it for a long time for the Knicks, which is good for their fans.
That's nice. Yeah, good news.
So moving on to some not so good news. Mr. Lou Williams.
Naughty boy.
Yeah. I'll just start with my initial thoughts. Well, we all know, we'll do the basis in case anybody doesn't know, which would be shocked anyone listening to this podcast doesn't know the story, but Lou Will was excused from the bubble for family reasons, as everyone gets excused for the bubble. And then on his way back, he stopped at a strip club who's not paying us for advertising, so we won't name their name, but allegedly just to buy wings. I believe it was in
Huge.
Yeah, I believe it was in Georgia as well, where there's no mask rules at the moment. You don't have to wear a mask. There's no 2 meter social distance rule, so you can't justify almost like, oh yeah, everyone had masks on. Well, they didn't have to have masks on. We don't know everyone had masks on, etc. And also, the most shocking part of the story for me personally, then, is the fact that he wouldn't have even the NBA wouldn't have found out, and he was not planning on telling the NBA until he took a photo with a famous rapper. That was the only way they'd known. Jack Harlow, by the way, we'll mention him. He was also at the strip club. But yeah, I just find it crazy that he would even do that. But B, the worst thing for me is not telling the NBA, because he was prepared just to come back, do the normal quarantine, which I think was a couple of days, or just because he was allegedly just going there and straight back.
Yeah.
But without that photo, he could have brought that back. And he said, "Oh, I was wearing a mask," but we all know the mask you're wearing doesn't protect you; it protects other people. You need other people to be wearing the mask, not breathing on you. So I just think it's very, very stupid. The whole thing, like the Marlins in baseball. Imagine if 10 Clippers would have got this just because of Lou Will trying to hide it.
Yeah.
I just think it's very irresponsible and not what you want to see in a veteran player.
I mean, he was just having food, so I'm sure there was no hot and heavy breathing going on in a very close, enclosed environment for him. That would never happen at a strip club, which, by the way, we are open to sponsorship. If they want to.
Don't tell your wife that.
But no, it's a weird. Like, he's just, his attitude towards it as well is really weird. He's like, I've never done anything wrong in the NBA, so this is my first black mark. Why has everybody got a big problem with it? And it's exactly what you said. I don't have a problem with him doing it. It's the repercussions of, like, potential repercussions of him coming back to the bubble environment and bringing something with him. No one cares that he went to a strip club, whether it was for wings or for other parts of a body. But the risk he put not just his team, but like all the other teams, all the referees, all the staff working in that bubble, it's ridiculous. It's
even
so
the Disney staff itself.
Yeah, so selfish.
Yeah, very selfish. I don't like Kendrick Perkins, but obviously he had something to say about it as well. Him and Lou Will been clapping back. So I just think he almost should take his lumps and just move on with it and do the quarantine and play basketball and try and forget about it. But he's almost acting even worse now, which is not great.
10-day quarantine, is it?
Yeah, same as Rashad Holmes got, because they're both getting food, which is an absolute joke that he's been given the same amount of days, in my opinion. I just think it's crazy. I just think there's no way that you could only give someone the same amount of days for that as someone. I think he popped like 2.5 meters outside the bubble to the front gates to pick up a bit of food. Not saying that's great either, but how that is even anywhere near the same? Because even if he did just get wings, he still walked into that same environment. It's not outdoors.
Yeah.
So yeah, crazy.
He was in a bit of news this week as well. Was it him that put up a tweet or an Instagram photo about being like him and Montrezl Harrell contributing to the team off the bench, like we're the best bench players like ever or whatever, or we've got this bench. And it's just like,
on Instagram stories was
okay, if every team put two of their starters or what should be their starters on the bench, they'd probably compete as well. Like, you're technically, you should be starting. It's just everybody likes you at being in that 6-man role. So
yeah, and his teammate is actually more favoured for 6-man of the year award than him this year, which is crazy.
Yeah, so
as in Montrez, like you said.
Yeah, so I don't know where he's got this weird bubble attitude from. Like,
yeah, strange. I think he's almost taking the lump, like taking people criticising him, and he's just acting very immature with it.
Yeah.
But obviously, the initial action as well. We can't condone stuff like that. When you could ruin people's like seasons. You could obviously ruin someone's life if you bring something back in and it goes to the wrong person. You don't know. So yeah, very stupid, very sad news. And we just hope this has got so much press that none of the other players do anything anywhere near this stupid. Or if they do, obviously, don't lie about it. Come forward straight away. Take your quarantine. Don't clap back. Just move on. So hopefully the players can learn from his mistakes.
Yeah, we're looking at Zion coming back in.
He's back. No wings were had. He's ripped at the moment, so no wings for Zion. Last bit of news before we move on to some scrimmage chat and some opening preview chat. Sabonis injury, Ben. I think he's left the bubble since we last recorded. There was a lot of scare around this. It was described as a left foot injury, which if you break your left foot, that's a lot of months.
Yeah.
But we've since found out it's plantar fasciitis, so there's a chance he could return, and he's going to LA for the words they've used as treatment that he thinks can help him. I'll be very worried letting my power forward decide on the treatment that can help a foot injury over doctors.
Yeah.
But apparently that's what's happened. He's got someone in LA. He must have a chronic issue with this to have someone in LA that he goes to help sort this out. So we have no idea when he's going to return. And it just made me think the Pacers could struggle even more, or Oladipo could be forced into returning, Ben.
I don't know which way it's going to go. Is it going to go Oladipo wants to play even more because he feels they're really short-handed, or is he going to be even less likely to play because it's like, well, there's no point. Like, we've lost another All-Star. Why should I bother now? I may as well wait for next season. It's very odd, that whole Pacers situation, because Oladipo's played like every scrimmage as well. So are you in or are you out? Just sort of make your mind up. But in terms of Sabonis, I feel so sorry for him. Had such a good season, and this was like, stage is set for him to carry this team through to, whatever they can achieve in the playoffs. And this happens. I do feel sorry for him. If he's got a specialist out in LA that's going to help him and he's going to get back quickly, then fingers crossed. Yeah, definitely. I want to see him back, because he's not the only one that's picked up an injury this week either. Eric Gordon picked up a foot injury as well, but the scans came back negative. And Anthony Davis got poked in the eye and is questionable for opening night.
Typical Davis.
Yeah.
Just going back to Sabonis quickly, though. Oladipo, really. It came out in the recent weeks that there's a $3 million bonus in his contract, not for the bubble, but for number of games and completing seasons, etc. Playoff games, blah 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 blah. So if he doesn't play, he would lose $3 million. So personally, the fact he's played in scrimmage games and there's $3 million on it, I could just see him playing, which almost makes some of our predictions worse, because I was counting on their best player not playing, and Brogdon almost having to lead the line. But if they can get Oladipo back and Sabonis comes back at some point in maybe the first or second round, if they get there, then they could surprise a few potentially. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I'm not convinced personally, but it'll make it more entertaining if they are.
Yeah, they'll be better offensively with Victor,
Yes.
even if he's only playing restricted minutes. But you have no idea what you're going to get from him with all of his injury history at the moment. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Cool. And on that note of scrimmages, Ben, let's take some time to review the scrimmages we've seen. What's your initial thoughts on not necessarily any specific games, but the court setup, watching experience, TV experience? How are you finding it?
That was a seamless link there, by the way. Fantastic work.
Gracias.
I watched a couple of different games on the sort of opening day of scrimmages. And the first, the one that sticks out most to me was I watched the Nuggets play, and it was the Nuggets broadcast as well. And they had like 4 pundits up at the top of your screen on a Zoom call, calling the game and having a chat as the game went. And that did my head in. That really annoyed me. I found it such a distraction. It's just like, what is the point in this? I'm here to watch the game, not watch you guys just waffle on about the Nuggets season and what you think. Blah, blah, blah. Just let the normal guys call the game.
Was that on League Pass or not?
No, that was. I can't remember what I watched it on now.
Something illegal.
No, obviously not. But then all the other games I saw, like spot on. I think the big screens they've got up for sort of like bolstering up the home teams, putting out their chants, putting cheers up, and like basically putting it to the colour of the team, making it more of a sort of a home team. Really, really great. I love this new sort of courtside camera angle they've got, because they've got the ability with no sort of media right on the edge or front row seats. They've got the ability to run those sort of cameras along the side of the court now, so you can almost get courtside view the whole time, which is
Looks sick, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I know we shared on our group chat that Chris Paul passed inbounds when he just flung it across court for a 3, and that was the first that was Ultra HD camera as well he used for that one, and the replay is so sick.
So good. What I find weird though is seeing like nobody sat under the baskets and stuff. There seems to be like so much room.
When they go in for layups and dunks, it does look a bit strange.
Yeah, really, really odd. But I think better for the players, definitely, because they've got to be thinking going in for a dunk or whatever and landing, oh, I'm going to crush this person as I go into the crowd or whatever. I'll try and pull up, and that might cause some injuries. So I think they've got a bit of a run out now, which I think is really good. I think they've done sort of some really good. They've got some really good ideas, and I think throughout these scrimmages, which I think have ended up being a good idea, they've really sort of ironed out all the creases and stuff. And I think, like I said, the punditry's developed and become really, really good. The way that you're getting the bench reactions and stuff, I think there's been some funny stuff going on there. I think they've done really, really well. Really good setup, and it's not like I like the fact they're putting the background calls in as well. Sort of, you've had some funny things over the PA systems and stuff, because I think if it was just them running around the shoe squeaking, it'd be a bit weird. But they've still got the music playing, crowd like chanting, and I think they've done a really, really good job personally. What about you? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the first thing I was so surprised was how good it looks. I was
Yeah.
almost like half anticipating. I don't know if you've ever watched it, but when you watch like a summer league game and it just looks empty, there's actually people there for those as well. But like you can see the bleachers and they're not full. It looks a bit weird, and you can see like other teams hanging around on the side. You can see like empty courts behind or whatever. I just think the whole actual room experience looks so good. How they've laid it out, where they put the players. Like I even find it cool. Like where the players are so spaced apart, it almost fills up one whole side of the room.
Yeah.
So yeah, that looks quite cool. All the audio options are really good. I like the fan interaction stuff. And apparently they're planning on experimenting more and carrying on with different options throughout the seeding games to come up with a final plan for the experience for the playoffs. So they've even got another 8 games per team to try out different options, which is quite good. And some of the stuff they're trying is related to our favorite topic, which is home court advantage. How they're gonna like sway more for like the court for the home teams in certain games. Free throws, for example, when someone's taking a free throw for the away side, technically the away team, can you pump in extra noise, stuff like that? Like they're still looking at those options, which is cool because they're, like we've said before, that the league's always thinking, and I think they've handled it really well. And I absolutely love the camera angle, like you said, that side like shot of Chris Paul was so good.
So good.
And we don't get it as much being in the UK, but apparently they will improve it for League Pass. But like if you watch it in America on the ESPN and stuff and TNT, they've got even more audio options where you can like just listen to the players. You can listen to the coach, like coaches being mic'd up in some of the scrimmages and stuff like that. Stuff like extra options you can turn on and off, which apparently should come to League Pass as well. But obviously not quite there yet for the scrimmages, whilst they just learn what's good and what's bad. So yeah, I think they've done an amazing job so far. I just think they need to definitely iron out the home court advantage idea. I don't know what that is. I think they could almost get to the point where they pump more noise in, they just leave it like that, because any sort of convoluted like extra fouls or who starts with the ball, I just think that could just drag on. So it might be easier just to focus. Yeah, just focus on that experience, I think, for the players and the fans. I also like the way the court looks with the Black Lives Matter logo on there. I think that looks good. I think it all looks really good. Moving on from how it all looks, have you enjoyed the actual basketball? I think it's been a lot less sloppy than what people think. I know when you empty benches, the quality will go down because you're taking off starters for 12 men, but I think the actual overall performances, especially in the first half of the scrimmages when the stars are playing more minutes, Ben, I think it's been pretty good.
Yeah, I was worried at the start. Like I said, that first game I watched,
It was
Nuggets
bad.
Wizards, like 20 turnovers or something, and um,
That's just the Wizards.
they got Jokic playing the point guard, which on paper is a really good idea, but in practice, I'm not convinced. I think he had 7 turnovers in that game
I
in
like that
6 minutes.
big five lineup. That could cause teams problems in the playoffs.
It potentially, but I think it's
Bit of
also
bowl.
slow. Yeah, he's been brilliant. Like it's been interesting seeing these sort of end of bench players getting good minutes and stuff, and seeing what they can actually do when put in sort of that situation. I'm disappointed we haven't seen um, too much of Jamal Crawford, if any at all. I was expecting to see him crossing people up early in the scrimmage, get his legs under him, but no real.
Yeah,
Um,
strange.
it's been nice to watch games again. Nice to see J.R. Smith getting some good minutes there with LeBron and AD not playing, getting some buckets.
Yeah, I was going to say, is there any teams that you think they've done well overall, or any special standout performances team-wise that stick out to you as good
Uh,
performances overall?
OKC have had a couple of really good wins. Um, the
Yeah, they looked good the
Sixers,
other night as well, didn't they? Actually,
yeah, Sixers defense looked really good again. Sliding Ben Simmons to that power forward, I think, is the best idea for them to start with, and then maybe move into the point when you're against a really good point guard. You could slide back into point and defend there. Really good. Um, James Harden has been on fire since he's come back.
especially in that second game, they're 129 points, didn't they?
Yeah, like unreal. And obviously the Bucks consistently just great, like doing whatever they want really. Then turning it on and off.
Lost to the Pels though.
Yeah, I'm not going to read into that at all. But I think
That was the head of my standout is the Pels. Haven't lost a game over 100 points every single game, 128, 120, and another. They've looked really, really, really in form. And I think a lot of that could be mentally as well, because it means so much to them. They know they've got to come into the first game, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But it's almost like they're more sped up, than these teams like the Clippers or whatever. They've also performed well. They're almost locked into their seeds, like the Celtics, for example. Oh, we can move up and down one. Like, yeah, that's good if we want to change matchups. But the Pelicans are like fighting for their lives to get in, and they've looked very, very good to me. And the Clippers have looked good as well, and they've hardly played their stars at all, as per, which would annoy you.
yeah,
On a personal point, the Mavs have done really well. Luka looks insane, and KP picked up another little knock. Missed one game, but there's absolutely no change there. But Luka has just been absolutely insane, and JJ Barrera is hitting threes all over, which I
yeah,
just find hilarious. And then your boys, JR and Mr. Dion Waiters, killing it with 3 pointers. I think JR was 6 from 7 or 5 from 6 from the field at one point in that game the other night. They won didn't have AD or LeBron, I don't think.
and that mental lob he did to Dwight Howard as well.
Yeah,
Unreal. You tend
surprised
to
Dwight even
forget.
got up there.
You tend to forget like that. JR initially his game was just like massive athleticism, and it's sort of become 3-pointers.
Yeah, after he got injured when he came back he won that Sixth Man of the Year with the Knicks, and then did ACL or Achilles, can't remember which one. Out for like 9 months, and then since then he's more of like a spot up 3-point shooter. But when he was with with the Nuggets, then moved in China, he was all dunks, lobs, fast breaks, pulling up from threes from outrageous like angles. Like, yeah, he was an exciting player.
So he's got that in the locker. I've been impressed with all of it. To be fair, like I said, even when they have emptied the benches and stuff, there's been some real surprise performances from a couple of teams and a couple of guys, and it's nice to see Taco 4's got some sort of competition now for the strangest player award with Bol coming in, putting some good minutes in.
I read an interesting story about Bol when they recruited him to come over.
Yeah.
Not him, sorry, his dad, who's just called Bol. he in each bowl, he didn't have a valid passport, but you could get him in back then on like a sports visa.
Right.
So basically, they had to like put like his date of birth, and they said, "Oh, what's your date of birth?" And he said, "Oh, I don't know." And they were like, "What do you mean you don't know?" And he was like, "I don't know my date of birth." And they asked everyone in his town, which is very small, where he lived in, and nobody knew his date of birth. So they just made it up, but they put him a lot younger than he probably was. So they reckon that he could have been playing in the NBA when he was 40 to 45. But obviously, everyone thought he was like 33, 34, quite old. But they reckon he was actually probably fought between 40 and 50 when he was dropping like 20 points a night in the NBA. Like, find that a crazy story. Yeah, but that was for the Washington Bullets as well back in the day. But I just found that an interesting little nugget that made me laugh. Everyone was talking about Bol, and then this story came out about his dad, and I was like, imagine if he was 50 and he was still scoring like 16 a night in the NBA.
Man.
That's pretty impressive.
Very impressive if that is like what happened in the end there.
Yeah, that's what the scout says. The scout's still in the NBA now. He's an arena scout for the G League. And he said, nobody knew his age, we just made it up. But he was clearly, by looks, a lot older than the age they made up. And then, because they just wanted him to get a better contract being younger. And then, just nobody ever knew his age. Still doesn't know his age now, apparently. But yeah, moving on from Mr. Bol. Any bad performances? I've got a couple of little nuggets that aren't the Nuggets. Your favourite team, the Wizards, with 0 wins. I believe the Nets also have 0 wins.
Man, the Nets on opening night against Pelicans.
69 points.
Oh my God.
The Wizards have looked bad as well.
Dreadful.
I listened to a podcast and they're calling them the Glizzards because the G League Wizards. And it makes me laugh every time I think about the Wizards. I just call them the Glizzards.
I've been disappointed with Portland.
Yeah.
Same. I was expecting them to do what the Pelicans are doing and come out like all guns blazing and just do something. And they've just sort of been really quiet and not done much. Melo's at least been getting his like 14, 15 minutes a night and been playing fine. But
CJ not much standing out, is there?
Crazy step back, which looked really good, but that's all I've got for it. Nice to see Nurkic back, posting people up and stuff. But
he got in Joel Embiid's face, didn't he, as well?
Yeah. So I just expected a bit more from them, to be honest.
Yeah, similar to me, really. Same with the Heat, actually. I watched them versus the Grizzlies, and they were just awful. I just don't know. I love Jimmy Butler, and he missed the game before when they won, and they just didn't look very good against the Grizzlies. Ja Morant could get wherever he wanted to on the floor, and they just couldn't stop him. Kendrick Nunn, he came back, didn't look quite himself, but good to see him back out there. But a bit of a struggle, really. I thought the same for the Heat, for the Nuggets and the Blazers. I thought they've all slightly underperformed on what I'd hoped to have seen, really.
When you look at the Heat and sort of like their two kind of best, most consistent players over these scrimmages have been Tyler Hero and Kelly Olynyk. I'm thinking, what's going on, boys? I know your quote-unquote stars are on limited minutes or whatever, but still, those are the two that have come to the top. Like,
quite clear as well. Olynyk's been one of the better players.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not saying Olynyk's a bad player. He's a great player, definitely. Like he's
good player.
He's a good player, but he shouldn't be your best player, even in these scrimmages.
No, I agree. The Raptors as well. They've looked weird, but it's hard, isn't it? Because it is scrimmages, so you've got to look at the minutes and stuff. But like Serge Ibaka looks absolutely awful. It's a big guy, I suppose, so it might take time to get his legs under him. But there's a couple of playoff teams that really underperformed to start with, and like a couple of the others, like we said with the Clippers, Lakers, Pelicans, Mavs, they look really good. So they need to get their legs under them. Some of these playoff teams.
Yeah, definitely. I think they will as well. I think obviously the lineups will change and they'll take it more seriously when they get into the sort of the proper 8 games leading up to the playoffs. But
so I found it. I've got a couple of Mavs related points, obviously, because I'm going to watch more of their games. But I found it nuts in his first game that in 19 minutes, Luka basically got a triple-double short of a rebound. That was absolutely nuts. First game back. And then last night he scored 24 points in 26 minutes. Like, he's on fire. But what annoyed me the most was I just can't believe they did this in a scrimmage game. They did overtime last night in the
I know.
Mavs game. Like, I would just call the game a draw because it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. It
Good
makes
to see
absolutely no sense.
Boban getting some minutes, hitting threes as well. I'd love to see like him, Bol and Taco Fall maybe do like a little one-on-one tournament, little round robin.
Boban did well the first game as well. He got like 3 threes. It was quite impressive, to be fair.
Yeah.
They got a player called Antonius Cleveland as well. Who's come through the G League, and he's got like 14 points and 16 points. And it could be a little bench option for them after losing a couple of their players to injuries. But yeah, I was just so shocked at the overtime. But that was just something I was like, yeah, you've got everything right with the bubble so far. But when I saw the Lou Will only get in 10 days, and then obviously the Mavs then 2 days later went into an overtime in a scrimmage, I was there like, nah, this is unneeded, unnecessary.
The other team I've been disappointed with is the Spurs as well. Just flat. They're just so flat. There's just nothing to them. I love the way that Pop has been allowing the rest of his coaching staff to coach the team, like giving them a bit of an opportunity. I think that's great in terms of their development. But in terms of their team making the playoff and getting their legs under them and stuff, it's not gone well for them either.
No, when I was doing the notes, I only realised actually that they lost to the Nets.
Yeah.
And this is the bubble Nets, not the real Nets.
No.
Yeah, they've not started well. They've shot a lot of 2-pointers as well. A lot of like long 2-point shots. You just watching like, oh, they're not going to succeed in this environment, or probably with these players in general. To be honest.
No, definitely not. They're going to struggle big time. I can't see them. They're not going to push for playoffs. So I feel sorry for them, but it's just the way it is this year.
Yeah, they'll probably see it as a good experience, like you said, for the coaching staff and the younger players. That Pop will always take the positives out of any situation and probably improve them for next year. Because such a good coach he is, so it won't do them any harm long term.
No. It's been nice to see him letting the others sort of take the reins, and he literally just sat there and let them do everything. So, it's classic Pop, isn't it? He's always trying to develop not just his players but all of his staff.
Yeah, definitely. And tonight is the first night, because we're recording this on the 29th, but we've got no games.
Oh, no,
so it's gonna be weird.
No.
But yeah. So on Thursday though, we have opening night, so we're just gonna do a little bit of a opening night preview. I can't wait, Ben. Absolutely can't wait. I don't know if I'm gonna watch both live. I think I'm gonna record the second game, unfortunately, due to our time zone issues. But yeah, I can't wait, mate.
Yeah, it's going to be really good to see some, like I said, proper serious NBA basketball rather than sort of messing around with lineups and all that kind of stuff. So that first game then is Utah versus New Orleans Pelicans. What are you expecting to see from that?
Well, after the scrimmages, obviously I don't really know what we're going to see from the Jazz. They've been a little bit up and down, but Pelicans-wise, they've started so well, and I expect them to do the same. I expect them to come out of the traps firing. It's a huge game. We've said so many times now, haven't we, that the Pelicans obviously have a good schedule, but they need to start well if they want to get into that 9 seed or even the 8. So yeah, I think it'll be an exciting game from the off, but I'm also a big fan that both teams have announced that they're going to start the game by kneeling for the national anthem as a peaceful protest. And Adam Silver was asked about this, and he said, "Oh, we at the NBA support peaceful protests. No issues here with us." So before we get to the basketball stuff, I think that's quite a cool way for them to start the game.
So good. I saw a couple of the women from the WNBA went back into the changing rooms for the national anthem. Like that was their way of protesting.
Yeah, that was the Sparks, I think.
Yeah, I think I think Adam Silver's again got it spot on. They got a right to protest wherever that may be, and they've chosen to play basketball probably on the pretense that they do have the opportunity to give over their opinions and the way they feel about the not just sort of Black Lives Matter movement, but anything that they're passionate about. And if that part of that is kneeling for the national anthem, then who's it hurting? Why not let them? I think it's great for them. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, definitely. And another bit of news is that Zion was due to train today. They were recording because his quarantine is over after joining the bubble. So if he's training, you'd like to think, whether it's obviously restricted or not, you'd like to think we'll see some of him on Thursday night. And I think that just strengthens their team. And it's hard to fully preview in terms of what you're going to expect, but I just fully expect to see a Pelicans win, to be honest. I just think they're going to come out absolutely firing. I think Zion's going to be on form. And they need the win badly. And I think it sets up the rest of the 8 games for the Pelicans and for the Grizzlies and for the, I've forgotten now, Blazers, my boy Melo. I think it sets it up nicely if they do win, and I can see them winning, especially if they start fast like they have in all these games. What do you think we're going to see from it?
That's the key, the speed. If the Pelicans can play with a high tempo, high pace game, I think they're going to take the win. If the ball gets slowed down and it plays into the Jazz hands, and they can go into their half court sets, and use their size, use their skill, use their game plan, I think the Jazz will sneak a win. If that happens, they'll play into the Jazz's hands. So that's going to be the difference. Pace of the game, for me, that's going to be the standout difference.
Yeah, and I think depending on how much we see Zion could be a difference as well. If he plays 15 minutes or if he plays 25, those extra 10 minutes, they could really, really benefit the Pelicans. But yeah, they've got to watch out because Donovan Mitchell's obviously a really good player, but also after a bit of a poor season, Mike Conley's looking quite good. On this restart. Yeah, I think he's benefiting from Bogdanovic being out, and he's getting more of the pick and roll, more of the corner threes, etc. So I think they've got to really watch him. And everyone's favourite coronavirus victim, Rudy Gobert, he's looked quite good as well. Unfortunately for Donovan Mitchell, who now hates him, he looks quite good as well. So yeah, I don't think it's going to be an easy game at all. But I think we could see a special performance from Zion. The whole world's watching, right? No basketball, proper basketball for so long. I think if he could get 20, 25 minutes out of Zion, I think it could be a special, special performance.
Yeah, you'd like to see it. That's what I mean. I think if Zion's out running the floor, Rudy Gobert doesn't stand a chance trying to get back and defend him. But if they give Gobert that chance to get back in the paint and set himself up, Zion might struggle to score in the paint against him. And it might force him to sort of step out and take those threes, which miraculously went down in his first game, but then struggled with since. So, yeah, pace of the game is going to be the key.
And if the Pelicans lose this game, do you see that being a huge detriment, or they still have enough games in those 7 to try and claw back a shot at the playoffs?
Any
is
loss,
it a must win?
Yeah, every game for them is a must win. I think any loss for them is a real, real. Like you just said, with the potentially easier schedule, any losses on that schedule really are sort of, well, they're not. It's not going to benefit them at all. You can't get into the playoffs with losing even a handful of games. They've really got to push this tempo. It means a huge amount.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And seeding wise, I think we all forget because the Pelicans are the darlings of this whole playing game, but they're actually behind Portland at the moment. So if they lose a game straight away, it gives Portland, obviously, who go into a game with Memphis, to really lay stake for that 9 seed at least, which is really all they want. I know they'd love the 8 seed because you have to play one less playing game to win. But if you ask Portland now, would you take a playing game being the 9th seed? They'd probably say yes. So I think if you lose first night and then you give a chance Portland to get 2 games behind Memphis and 2 games ahead of you, I think you put yourself in a real tricky predicament. Yeah. But that Portland bet to get into the playoffs could be looking good if the Jazz pull out a cheeky win.
The other thing for New Orleans there is if they lose to the Jazz, their next game's the Clippers, which if they then, they lose 2 games on a bounce, that's got to hurt.
If they lose 2 games on the bounce, they could go into their 3rd game being the 12th seed. Because the Spurs are only 1 game behind them, and if the Pelicans lose, Sacramento would go above them as well.
So they I think they definitely need to win this opening game.
And Jazz-wise, because we always spend a lot of time on Zion's Pels, a big win for them could get them closer to the Nuggets. If they want to be a third seed, it's almost, obviously we've said there's no home court advantage really, but in terms of who they think they want to play, a win would do them very well in trying to catch the Nuggets and also breed a bit of space getting away from the 7th seed, because like we've said so many times, no one wants to be the 7th seed and play the Clippers. So no. They're only one game ahead. Even though they're in the 4th seed at the moment, they're only one win ahead of the Mavs. So if they can get an early win, and then the Mavs and Houston play each other, so obviously they both can't win that match, I think it'll be good for the Jazz if they get a win.
Yeah, that's essentially it. In those sort of upper, sort of mid teams, they're essentially playing for their opponent. Where do we want to end up, and who's going to be our easiest opponent? And for the Jazz, they need to keep as far away from that 7 and 8 seed as possible. And try and, like I said, leapfrog Denver, try and push them down a bit, maybe, and keep out of reach of OKC as well. Houston are definitely going to climb up. For the Jazz, if they can end up playing like an OKC or a Denver, it's definitely going to benefit them more than playing any other team in that Western Conference, I think.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. If I had to push you for a final prediction, I'm going to go narrow Pels win with a good Zion performance. What are you going to go with?
Yeah, I'm going to match you, I think. We'll go Pelicans win. But
keep it interesting in the race for the playoffs.
It'll be within 10 points.
Cool. Nice. I have to get a bet on.
Cool.
All right, and now for the maybe more marquee matchup in many ways, but obviously not as an important matchup due to the playoff seedings. But we have the Clippers versus the Lakers. What are your thoughts on this, mate?
Again, I think a lot of it depend on who plays, as it always is with the Clippers, and is now with the Lakers.
So is AD out? Did you say, or did you say he's questionable?
Potentially, he's questionable at the moment still for opening game, and I think they might leave him. I think they might leave him out. I think the Lakers have definitely got the firepower to contend with the Clippers after signing Waiters and J.R. Smith. They'll play LeBron at the point guard probably more than they would have done if they still had any point guards available. So I think it's going to be a tight one, even with AD not playing, because the Clippers aren't going to have Lou Williams. So that's, 20 plus points they're losing out on. Can they shut Paul George down enough? Kawhi's been quite quiet. Is he going to have a bit of a breakout night? Has he been saving it? But I don't know. I think the Clippers are going to clinch it. But
it's bold.
I feel like it's potentially almost tactical from the Lakers, sort of not showing all their cards too soon.
Well, they haven't been.
I know LeBron's come out and said every game is. No, so I know LeBron's come out and said every game is, it's playoff time. It means business and stuff. But I also think they might hold back on AD. They might give, like we've said, like JR and Dion and all those kind of guys more minutes. Still, maybe few plays with the lineups here and there. Just see how they get on and not put too much emphasis on this one. Whereas I think the Clippers will want the win more than the Lakers will. So I think Clippers win again by about 10 points, I think.
Nice. I have a lot of the same notes, really. I expect to see JR and Zion get more time, just so they can get used to the system and get the legs under them for the pace of the game and stuff. Obviously, Clippers, no Lou Will, which is a big loss in terms of points scored, but it's not like they haven't got enough options elsewhere to score points. I still think minutes restrictions will be in place for nearly all of the stars, or not even the stars, starters, both teams. because they're pretty much locked in. We've said this before with their seeding, so I don't see any reason why you just start banging out players at 38 minutes a game and risk injury when the game always means something, but doesn't really mean a lot for either team at the moment. And I think this could be a Western Conference Finals preview, and I find it very interesting if the Clippers do win, that the Lakers wouldn't have beaten them all season, then potentially have to go into a best of 7.
So the Lakers have won once. It's 2-1 at the moment.
2-1, is it? Sorry.
So if the Lakers win this, it'll be split over the season.
But yeah, I'm with you. I think the Clippers win. I actually think the Clippers win by more than 10. I think it's more in the 15 to 20 range. If Kawhi and Paul George play a good amount of minutes. If you're talking 18, if you do it like the Mavs were doing KP at 18 minutes a game, if you're talking no Lou Will and then you're only going to play your 2 stars for 18 minutes, then it's very different. It's hard to predict. But I think if you get a good 20, 25 minutes per all the stars, I think, we could see another Clippers win. But it wouldn't shock me if Mr. LeBron went off, because he probably needs a rest least than anyone with his superior fitness.
Yeah.
But to be honest, it's one of those. You see the lineup, such a different team, isn't it? Without Davis, like they'd have to focus so much more on just shooting 3-pointers. Do you know what I mean? And defending a lot less without him, because we all know obviously Howard and McGee are not the same defensively as Anthony Davis. So we'll have to see. I think Carroll could be in for a good game for the Clippers off the bench if Davis doesn't play.
Yeah, I'd like to see Dwight step up again and sort of become that Dwight of old in terms of Lakers with AD not being there. I'd love to see that. That would sort of be the cherry on top of his season, really, coming back and playing with LeBron and having a real standout game, especially against the Clippers if he's going to do it against anyone, because he could definitely compete with the bigs that they've got. There's no reason why he couldn't sort of show himself off. I think it could go that LeBron sort of slips into sort of that kind of like power forward distributor kind of role, taking it in if the defense collapses on and kicking it out. And like you said, he's got that firepower around him now. Sort of, Caruso can hit threes, and JR and Dion and Danny Green, obviously. I think that's the way they're going to play, and keep a big centre on like JaVale or Dwight to sort of clear up the boards and block shots. That's the way they're going to have to play without AD being that man in the middle.
Noah v. Dwight is like 2010 basketball returned.
I know. What's going on?
I know. We're going retro. We're going rebounding. We're going awful free throws. We're going pick and rolls. We're going no 3-point shooters from our bigs.
Yes, I've been waiting for this.
Opposite to Rockets ball, we're going to just pound the paint.
All big, yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, both opening games then, boringly, we've predicted similar outcomes, or the same for both two teams to win.
Just to make it more interesting, the Clippers, they won their first game by 10 against the Lakers. They won the second game by 5. And the Lakers won the third game by 9. Does that change your prediction at all?
If Davis doesn't play, it doesn't change my prediction. But if Davis plays, anywhere from like a 8 to 14-point win wouldn't shock me. But if Davis doesn't play, I can just see them winning by 10 to 20 points quite comfortably if he doesn't play. But we won't find out until nearly come tip time, to be fair.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. They'll keep it quiet until they sort of have to announce it, won't they?
Yeah, but obviously I've always been on the Clippers the whole season to win the title. There's obviously some bias there, but I do just expect them to come out and be a little bit different. Mainly just because of the Lakers changes in the roster for now, and the fact the seeding game really doesn't matter to them.
No.
But cool, so that's opening night previewed. Just a quick one then before we go. We've got one of the busiest weekends of basketball we've had, probably in our lifetimes. So I'm going to read you the games, and I want you to pick a game of the night for each day of the weekend, right? Tell me just pick one game, a little brief reason why, and then we'll head out of here. So on Friday we've got, I'm not going to say who's home because it makes no difference. We've got the Magic versus the Nets, the Grizzlies versus the Trailblazers, big game. The Suns versus the Wizards, lol. Celtics Bucks, Kings Spurs and Rockets Mavs. What's your pick of Friday night's games?
So there's 3 games that jump out of the rubbish that is there on that opening sort of big game nights, which are Houston, the Mavericks, because, same division, big marquee stars, potential to be electric. Boston Bucks, always a sort of a gritty game. But I think the game of the night is that Memphis Portland, that fight for the 8th, 9th spot. It's there, out of everybody that's playing, those are the 2 teams that are going to be fighting it out the most. So that's going to be my pick of the game there. The Grizzlies versus Portland, definitely.
Yeah, I think if I take my bias hat off, I'd say the same. That's the most interesting game in terms of impact for the season. And quite shocking, actually. The Sky Sports have got Celtics and Bucks on, Rockets and Mavs, obviously. But they're putting on the Magic Nets at 7:30 rather than going for the 9 o'clock game. But whether that's because of TV rights, I'm not sure. But it seems a bit of a strange decision.
Could be to do with the fact that the Orlando Magic are sponsored by Disney as well.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, opening the Friday night. That's true.
Yeah.
Saturday night we've got less poor games, so it might make your decision harder. We've got Heat v Nuggets, Jazz v Thunder, Pelicans v Clippers, 76ers v the Pacers, and the Lakers v the Raptors. What's your standout game there?
It is definitely trickier, but it's probably going to be New Orleans and the Clippers. If Zion is playing, which I'm sure he will be by this point. Again, because of where New Orleans are in terms of their standing, and they need a win, they're going to be doing everything they can to beat this super loaded Clippers team who, are they going to be playing their full team or not? If they're playing their full team, this is the one I think that's going to be the good game to watch. I was tempted there by Lakers-Toronto because I think Raptors are going to be wanting to get some wins and playing against the Lakers and stuff. And LeBron's obviously got his reputation against Toronto. And also tempted by Utah, OKC, just because I never rate OKC and they always surprise me every single time. And I need to stop doing it. So,
some good games there.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Pelicans versus the Clippers.
The Sky Sports double of the Heat Nuggets followed by the Pelicans Clippers. It's got some good star power as well, so that's fun for the UK audiences that haven't got Game Pass.
Yeah, that's great.
And then let's finally finish on Sunday night. The first game is an absolute stinker. It's not on Sky. We've got the Wizards versus the Nets, the Blazers versus the Celtics, Spurs v the Grizzlies, the Kings v the Magic, the Bucks v the Rockets, and the Mavericks versus the Suns. So I think we might have a different game on this one. Different best game.
Well, I don't know. I'm tempted by Portland Celtics. Again, just because of where Portland are in the standing, and the Celtics are going to be wanting to climb up or get out the way of playing the Sixers first round. But my game of the night there is the Bucks and the Rockets. Just because of, I know James Harden and Giannis and stuff had a bit of back and forth off the court. They don't like each other's playing styles. And
I probably agree with both of them. I don't like either of their playing styles so much.
Well, that's it. And so I think it's going to make
a real star-studded game, isn't it?
Yeah, a real interesting game. Giannis and Chris Middleton, the Lopez brothers going up against the dynamic duo of James Harden and Russell Westbrook. So that's going to be my pick for Sunday night.
Cool. Well, we agreed on Friday and Saturday, but Sunday I'm going to have to go with my boy Melo. 8:30 tip-off on Sky Sports.
Nice.
He's going to be draining threes against the Celtics like he's did all his career in New York. And the Blazers are going to get in the 8th seed. No, they won't. They won't do it that night, but they will win. No, I don't know if they'll even win, but whatever. Team Melo.
Team Melo. Yeah, and if they've got their full roster and they're all playing lights out, then where they can beat the Celtics as well is that up front, a
lot of bigs.
A big team. Like they can bully the Celtics.
Kanter can't defend to save his life, so
No, exactly. Which Portland know. So it's just
true.
can they stop Tatum and who's going to be guarding him? Is it going to be CJ? Is it going to be Melo?
Well, shouldn't be Melo.
Shouldn't Melo. That's what I mean. If they,
Melo or Marcus Smart. That's what I want. That's what I want to see.
oh my god,
Get them fat boys together. Let's go.
what a matchup that is! Jesus.
Yeah, Melo used to hate Marcus Smart as well back in the day, so
Yeah,
be interesting. Cool. Well, that's all we've got for this episode. Then I think we're absolutely buzzing for the return, mate, and we hope everyone listening enjoys basketball being back this weekend. There's loads of games to watch.
I've also I did have a comment from a listener actually, just before we go, on the use of a word that we keep putting out there.
Oh,
Apparently,
God.
it's not a word. We cannot say the word funnest.
Oh yeah. Do we both say that? Do we? I think I've just said it a minute ago.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, we're going to replace it with most entertaining.
Oh God. If we can remember to do that, then I'll be most surprised. But I've got to throw it out there. As a teacher, grammar's been pulled up. I've got to put it out there.
Got to address it.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you have the funnest weekend watching basketball. I think we're going to record again early next week, aren't we? Just to go over the games we've seen so far and then preview the next round. I think that's the plan.
Yeah, sounds
cool.
like a good plan.
All right. Well, everybody, remember to go follow us at @_Hardwood Hoops and at the Hardwood Hoops podcast on Facebook. That'd be much appreciated. Enjoy the weekend of basketball, and we'll speak next week. Cheers, Ben.
See you soon.